All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Bankole Ojo-Medubi, and I'll be discussing today the future of work and how you can navigate it. Um, I've, when Ibrahim asked me to speak about this, I felt it was very timely because I had been talking to quite a few people who feel like um, the world, the ground on which they are standing on is moving under them. There's so much changing so quickly and so fast. And they don't know what to do about it. They don't know how to react. First things first is people don't even know what's happening, talk less of knowing what to do about it. So, so I felt that that was something that I started thinking about for a while, and I feel like I am able to now share something, my take on the issue, and a way for people to navigate the space that we are currently in. So, but as usual with these things is that if I want to speak about this, a critical question I find I have to answer first and foremost is why am I, or who am I, or why am I qualified to speak about this topic? So to just give please do not be shocked by the image in the background. That was my car in 2020. And I was on my way to see a, a client. At the time, I was a graduate of architecture who had built a furniture factory, which was doing quite well. But this accident was the first of three accidents that I had in the year of 2020. This accident was serious enough that when the airbags hit my face, it cracked my skull. I couldn't work for like 3 months while I recovered because I couldn't make any serious movements. I was even given, the doctor's advice was I couldn't even cut my hair. For a lot of people, they would know me with the big afro, bushy afro, and they thought that it was a fashion statement. It was largely medical advice. And so, but like I said, this was one of three accidents I had that year. And at that point, everybody has that moment when they feel like Nigeria is trying to kill them. 2020 was that year. That was the year of COVID. That was the year that I had three accidents. And I was now like, what's trying to kill me here and everything? And I realized something. I was on the road so much that the chances of accidents happening was so much higher. There would be days in which I would be driving from site to site to site, and I would rack up to 200 kilometers just within the city of Abuja, just driving. And so if I'm on the road so much, the chances of this kind of thing happening to me so often was high. And it was at that point I now made that decision that, look, I need to find other options. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep running this furniture store. And at the time, my skills were limited. What did I have? Like I said, I'd learned to be an architect in school. I had trained myself to be a carpenter. I did not have any skills that could translate outside of the country, or every skill that I had was restricted by geography. And so that was when my journey to transition started. And over the last 5 years, I've been on that journey, learning a whole set of skills that trying to be as useful to as many people in as many places in as many ways. And that journey also led me to build the company that is now driving a lot of what I've learned about this particular topic. And that is Parasol. So Parasol, what we do is that Parasol is a remote staffing partner We help founders, nonprofits, business owners, people who are looking to either export certain low leverage tasks or export certain operational capabilities into countries that they don't exist. We help all these guys deliver work to either their customers or whether their clients or stakeholders. And we're a young company, we're less than 2 years old, but in less than 2 years, we've been able to deliver about 300,000 billed work hours across the US, Canada, UK, and Europe. And we've done this by being able to have a 95% client retention rate. All of our customers that have worked with us have continued to work with us. One of the ways that we've been able to do that, especially in a very volatile environment like Nigeria, is by building actual infrastructure that does not only allow us to find talent, but allows us to deliver talent reliably. And a few companies, nonprofits that we've worked for are the MasterCard Foundation, the Coca-Cola Foundation, Generation, based out of Virginia, and a few other companies. So in this journey of building this company over the past 18 months, it has been a whirlwind, and we have learned so much and has gathered so much data on ground from the work that we have been doing that we've started to see patterns in the way that the world is changing. And why? Because we are talking to the employers. We help them draft their we help them draft their job descriptions. We help them, we sit in on some of their interviews. We get feedback from them on the people that they eventually hire and the relationship with the employees while they work with them. On the other side of it is that we also get to see the employees working because they work from our facilities. So we are able to see the people who are doing well and the people who are not. And for the people who are not doing well, when they are let go, we have exit interviews in which we have gathered data on why they were let go. Also, the employers give us information on that. And on the other side of it, the employees that are doing well, because we've had people who have been promoted within 3 months, we've also had interviews with them to find out, why are you doing well in what you are doing? So all this data that we've been gathering has allowed us to start seeing patterns in how the workplace is changing, and not just locally, but within, not just locally, but internationally, because we are working with international employers. And so those insights are some of the things that I would like to share with you guys today. And yeah, so let's get into it. So about 2 weeks ago, LinkedIn freaked out. Why? Because Amazon let about 14,000 people go, and it leaked in either Reuters or the New York Times, I can't remember which, it leaked that they were looking to actually cut 30,000 jobs over the next 3 years. And everybody freaked out. Oh, the great AI disruption is finally here. And everybody was really scared. I had a different take on it, though. And here's my question. There's something Charlie Munger says, which is always invert. And what does that mean? It means, like, whatever assumption everybody is making, look at it from the other side. And the question that I asked is, what if everything that we have known about corporate jobs our entire life is not normal, but actually the anomaly? That means most of us here are either millennials or Gen Z, and everything that we have seen, everything that we know about what employment looks like, if you zoom out and look at it through the arc of history, what if that is the anomaly. And we are just now going to start reverting back to the mean. And I don't think it's a stupid question, because the corporate job model is actually historically rare. Mankind is millions of years old. But before 1700 CE, we were largely just farming. We were agrarian, we are farmers, all right? And then the early industrial revolution, you know, between 1750 to 1850 now came in. That was when people now started coming together to do certain things, but still in small packs. And then the late industrial era, that was where the technological advancements came to now start laying the groundwork for a lot of what we now see for as huge corporations. Now, the peak of our industrial might as a species so far has been between what we know of corporate jobs. It has been between 1945 to 1980, a 35-year period. And that is where everything we know as a corporate role or a corporate job, that was where the groundwork was laid for that. That was where the template was laid for that, specifically in Japan, but you know, spread everywhere, where thousands of people would come and work within, or come to a particular place, work, and with that, they would be given certain benefits, their pension, their healthcare, and so on and so forth. Because even from 1980, the signs of what we are now seeing come to fruition today had already started being laid. All right? Because at that point in time, outsourcing started becoming a thing. So, like I said, the 20th century marked the rise of large corporations as the dominant economic institutions. Employment shifted from these small, you know, mom and pops to huge corporate hierarchies. Workers were now experiencing, you know, were tying a lot of their security to these jobs, you know, like pensions, and like I said, healthcare. And then also, for us, I don't know if any of you knew what life was in before 1945, but you know, we didn't get to see it. So for a lot of us, we have grown up in that environment. And I think in the early 2010s was where the cracks now really started to show, as with regards to that there was finally that boom period, as it were, was now coming to an end. So now where are we? Here's the thing. With the amount of technology, with the growth of technology, we are now seeing a situation where these huge organizations, these huge corporations are now, and that's what happens with disruption. A lot of times, the huge corporations now start to struggle because there's a small, nimble, agile competitor. But most of the time, we always thought about this small, agile competitor as, you know, oh, this company hires about 1,000 people. Then this small competitor that hires about 100 people will come and disrupt them. But in this case now, we are seeing where individuals and literal small teams of less than 5 people are able to disrupt competitors who have 1,000 people or more. So let me give an example. Let's just look at what YouTube and TikTok has done to the corporate media, period. When I grew up, there were only 2, maybe 3 TV stations that I got my content from. We didn't even call it content, you know, it was programs. And they determined when you watched it, how you watched it, which day you would watch it. And in 2005, YouTube arrived. Now, as of 2023, Pew Research shows that most people spend more time watching online creators on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram than watch traditional TV. And what's the takeaway here? The takeaway here is that now, because of technology, people with no infrastructure, just people, individuals with no infrastructure, Mr. Beast and his best friends, or who else, who's huge on TikTok, I don't know. But people with small teams are able to win against corporations that have invested billions in talent and infrastructure. All right? And that's the takeaway here, that the teams are becoming smaller. And so here's my hot take about the future of work, that we are going to be moving from thousands of bulky institutions or corporations to millions of smaller, high productivity teams, small teams that are able to deliver a level of productivity as much or even more and quicker than these big institutions. So here's an example of one of these companies. It's called Guardian Bikes. They're based out of Seymour, Indiana. There was an AI summit that was held about, let's say, 3 or 4 months ago. And that was the first time I heard about this company, because it was held up as what new manufacturing was going to look like. And let's look at the background. Basically, the United States was only making 2% of the bikes that it uses in the United States, that it uses domestically. Guardian Bikes now created this factory where there was no factory in that area. There were no jobs in that particular sector, but they were able to do that. And another thing was that they built a factory normally that would need hundreds of people to run, but due to technological advances, they needed to hire only 60 people to run it. Now, there are two ways to look at that. You now be like, oh, technology is disrupting people, and something that hundreds of people could have done. Now 60 people are doing it. But the other thing, remember the prior context I gave you guys. There was no way before to run that kind of factory profitably before. So that was not possible. But now it has hired plus 60 people. Another interesting point that is not on the slide was that they were able to hire veterans, high school leavers, people with no background in manufacturing to come and do these jobs, and were able to train them within 30 days. All right? So that's another thing that was going on there. Well, let's proceed. Now, we've talked about this. I've kind of laid out what I think is going on, which is there's a huge disruption going on. A lot of the big companies are going to be, disrupted. I think there are going to be millions of small companies that are going to take their place. I actually have this, in my opinion, a very brilliant idea, where imagine now with the power of AI, you're able to run a chain of akara sellers around all, maybe a particular area like Wuye in Abuja. At every junction, you have an akara seller. But because you have the power of AI, you're able to run it at the operational level of a McDonald's. You'll be able to level up your operational profits to the point where that is now possible. Those are the kind of things that I'm thinking about, that with these smaller companies, they will be able to solve more niche problems, more localized issues that people are having. All right? So that's why I think it's happening with the corporations. Now, what's happening with you? Because you're probably asking a very good question. How does all this concern me? So when the 14,000 layoffs happened with Amazon and everybody was freaking out, I jumped on my LinkedIn and I wrote a post to share. That was at the beginning of how I was beginning to think about this. And here's what to keep in mind. And here's what you need to keep in mind. The how of work is changing, but the what, that is the outcomes that businesses are looking for, are still the same. So you might feel like the world is changing around you, but there are certain reference points that if you focus on, you will not feel disoriented. Now, once again, going back to the Amazon story, when they cut the 14,000 jobs, everybody jumped out and it's like, oh, you know, everybody's freaking out and all that. But another story came out like 3 days later because the CEO of Amazon now came up to clean up, you know, PR. He came out to clean up some of what was going on around Amazon and the anxiety that was spreading everywhere. But that, of course, that story didn't get as much coverage as the fact that they had let 14,000 people go. But I'm going to tell you what he said. And this was what he said. He said the layoffs, and please listen to this. He said the layoffs were not really financially driven. And it's not even really AI driven. He said, at least not right now, that it's about culture. Now, that sounds like PR speak, but he actually goes further to outline what he means. He talked about the fact that as they have grown, they have hired more people. And he said you end up with a lot more people than what you had before, and you end up with a lot more layers, sometimes without realizing it. And this is why I want you guys to listen to. He said you can weaken the ownership of the people that you have who are doing the actual work. What is he saying here? I boldened the last line. You can weaken the ownership of the people that you have who are doing the actual work. So if we are to take Andy Jassy's quotes literally, he fired 14,000 people so that he could help the fewer people who are doing the work do their work better. All right? Now there's the cliche, the AI cliche, oh, AI won't take your job. It's somebody that is using AI that will take your job, you know. That's kind of what he's saying here. All right? The people that are doing the actual work. The work is the what that we are talking about here. That the what's that have not changed. That is actual work. Now, one of the things that you hear people say a lot is that, oh, getting new jobs is about, well, how do they put it? It's about providing value. You have to be someone that provides value. All right? The value is the what. But now, what's that? What's that value? What's that what? Here are the what's. All right? These 6 things are things that have not changed. These are things that, if you are able to do these 6 things, any team will want to work with you, any corporation will want to work with you. This is what those people who are not let go from Amazon are doing in one way, shape, or form that meant that they kept their jobs. 1, do you help your team make more money? That's very obvious. We all know how in a lot of companies, the marketers, the sales execs, the account executives, they have quotas. So far as they are delivering it, they are untouchable. All right? But even you as an accountant or as a software developer or as a customer care representative, how does your particular role help your company make more money? So one, do you help your team make more money? Two, do you save money or resources? Three, do you save time or make work easier to do or higher quality? Four, do you open new markets or opportunities? Five, do you help more people trust or know your company? And six, this six is kind of like a 5.5, but it's still very important. If you do any of the first five, right, it goes a long way if you are a cool person to work with. Because if you are able to do any of the first five, and there's somebody else who is able to do the first five, and you're a cool person to work with, they will stick with you. And I'll tell a story that quickly encapsulates that. There's a lady who works with us, She actually got fired, but then got brought back. But she actually worked in marketing. And it was after she got fired that I found out, and she was one of our longest serving people, or she is one of our longest serving people, that I found out that she never hit her quota once, but everybody loved her. And that was why they kept her around. Why did they fire her? That was her fault. She went and started saying about how she wanted to move to a new job, and she told the co-worker went and snitched, and then she got fired. But here's the crazy part. After a few months, they still told her to come back because they like her so much. All right? That's how important empathy, cool vibes, being someone who is cool to work with can be. That's how powerful it can be. All right? But let's look at a few of the previous things that I talked about. Do you help your team make more money? Do you save money or resources? For example, as a customer care representative, do you know that it costs you 3 times less to keep a customer than to get a new one? So if you're a good customer care representative and you're able to resolve people's problems, that means that you are saving your company money, because a customer who that company is able to keep on the books will be more profitable to the company than having to go and get a new customer. That is how a customer rep can help the business save more money. All right? They are software developers. They are just, I'm all about the software language I'm using. I'm very good at writing lines of code. How does it help the government, these companies' goals? Another example I'm going to give you is, and this goes to, do you help more people trust or know your company? I'll tell you 2 stories that link to that. One was, my wife was talking with an architect based out in Barcelona, and said this was about 2 or 3 years ago, and she was trying to figure out also, like, hey, with everything going on, what am I supposed to do and all that? And he told her, look, build an online presence. The reason why she was like, she was thinking about learning how to do XR and VR. He was like, that's a waste of time. Learn to build an online presence. One of the factors in a lot of companies now is people who can be free PR for whatever they do. All right? And I'll tell you the same. I did a project for the UN today. One of the key drivers that helped me rise above some of the other candidates was my online presence. And I'll tell you guys something. A lot of people are like, I don't like to post. If I post, only one person likes my post or whatever. The point is, you're not trying to be a social media influencer. The point is that you're trying to be visible in the online marketplace, the online labor market. If you're just liking and scrolling, nobody can see you. All right? Nobody can see you. But if you now have a presence and you are able to share things that you are learning, and then there are people who are beginning to build an audience, companies are beginning to find that important. Not beginning. They are finding that important. The second thing I want to tell you is there was this tweet by the guy who used to run socials for LinkedIn, I think Amazon and one other company. And he just tweeted this a few days ago, and he said that having an online presence and having a good online reputation is one of the greatest assets that one can have, that one can bring into a company now. So that is one. So people might not, so people are looking for people to hire that, oh, we've been spending millions of dollars on advertising, but we are getting clients because people like this person. And this is real. All right. So once again, I'll run over it again. Do you help your team make more money? Revenue contribution. Do you save money or resources? Cost efficiency. Do you save time or make work easier to do or higher quality? Process efficiency. Do you open new markets or opportunities? Growth contribution. Do you help more people trust or know your company? Reputation contribution. Or culture and vibe contribution. Are you just a cool person to work with while doing any of the previous 5 things? So the whats have not changed. It's the tools that people are using to do these things that have changed. The hows, the processes, all right? So now, what do you do? This is the world that we're living in. What do you do? Smaller teams, everybody is, these big companies are laying people off. What do you do to position yourself to be able to take advantage of these changes? One, whatever skill you have, learn that skill and understand how it drives any of those outcomes that I mentioned earlier. You have to know how it links. You can't just come into the office, clock in and clock out. The factory I told you guys about, so let me zoom out. One of the things that is happening with a lot of companies now is that they are achieving higher levels of productivity and higher levels of efficiency. So there's less waste. So you can't just come in and clock out, and you're not moving the needle in any one of those aspects. All right? So know how your skills drive those outcomes. Know how your skill saves money. Know how your skill makes money. Know how your skill brings people into the company. Know how your skill opens up new growth opportunities. All right? And then use AI and other tools to turbocharge that productivity. Go all in. A story that encapsulates this is we have a digital marketer who is working out of Parasol, who was hired to run a campaign for one of the biggest Black business chambers of commerce in the US. This chambers of commerce has been having annual conferences every year for over 10 years. This guy comes in, builds a marketing campaign, is able to put in a technology stack that allowed these chambers of commerce for the first time ever in their history to sell out the tickets to their annual conference. So now this guy the digital marketer was able to, he knew what was important, he knew what they wanted, and then he was able to build the technology stack that was able to deliver that. And you know what? He's the one that knows it. And now he has been pulled into three other projects. Some of the people were business owners who had come to attend that annual conference, and the convener of the conference recommended him to them. Which takes me to the other point, which is there are going to be a few people who will benefit from these changes on orders of magnitude. And then finally, learn to network across different domains. Goes back to the point I made. You have to be visible online. If you want to work with only Nigerians, fine. But even if you want to work with only Nigerians, do you want to work with only Nigerians that are on your street or in your city or in your building? You have to be visible online for other people to be able to see you and network with you and invite you. Look, here's the point that I am making. What you want to do is you want to be the person that everybody wants on their team. Everybody wants you to join their team because you bring some sort of value. That is what you want. All right? And once you've built the skill stack to be able to be that person, you want as many people as possible to know that you exist so that the invitations keep on coming. So with that said, like I said, learn your skills, understand how they drive outcomes, use AI or other tools to turbocharge your productivity and efficiency, and then learn to network across different domains, whether in person or whether online. Do not be restricted by geography. And so I'll just end with this quote by Eric Hoffer, who says, "In times of change, learners will inherit the earth. All right? While the learned will find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists." And so I hope you guys have been able to find some value from this. The world is changing, yes, but the things that organizations are looking for, the things that or organizations are trying to achieve, and the things that people are looking to get hasn't changed at all. So it's critical that in whatever area that you are building your skills, that you are able to deliver those outcomes in a way that you keep getting invited to every organization, every team, every corporation, every individual that needs those skills. So thank you once again. My name is Bankole Ojo-Medubi, and I hope I'm the managing partner for Parasol. And I hope that the insights that we've learned in the work that we've done over the past year or so is something that you'll find useful. Thank you. I believe Ibrahim. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Bankole, for the insight, and thanks for making it brief. So if we have any questions, kindly put them in the chat or raise your hands if you want to ask. But in the meantime, there are some questions that have come on from the online space. I'll just dump them in the chat so that you can take them at your leisure. So these were submitted questions.
All right, so I think the first question says, who are the modern literates and how do you define it? I go into the topic of modern literates more. I think there's a video on Ibrahim's channel where I spoke about this at length. I really went into it because that too is like probably an hour, 2-hour long conversation. But the concept of modern literacy is just, like we said in the past, all you had to do was be strong and have, 4 limbs and 10 fingers and 10 toes. And you would either be shipped off to the front line to fight your country's enemies or your village's enemies, as it were, or you would be shipped off to the farm to farm food for your community. But that evolved. As technology evolved, what happened was people now had to learn how to read and write. And then from that, it evolved across the 80s, 90s, that people had to learn computer literacy, how to use computers. That gave you the options. Now, in today's climate, the modern literacy, as far as I'm concerned, encompasses about 5, maybe 6 things. 1, you need to have elite communication skills. You need to be able to communicate well, not just speak English or speak any language. You need to be able to communicate in a clear, concise, and compelling way about anything. It's critical. Why? Because especially in these days where we work remotely, and I don't want to pigeonhole that into speaking. I also mean writing. Your communication skills is what transports a lot of the value that you'll be providing as a worker in any space, whether it's in meetings, whether it's technical documentation, whatever. All right. So you need to have elite communication skills. Then you need to have digital marketing, or not digital, you need to have marketing skills. You need to know how to sell things. Now, most of the time you'll be like, okay, I'm not a marketer. Why do I need to know how to sell things? Because even when working with, because we're always selling, ABS, we're always selling, always be selling, which means even when you're working with teams, you need to convince people of certain ideas. It's not obvious to people that, oh, this is a fantastic idea, and they will just follow you. You need to be able to sell that to your team. You need to be able to sell yourself to get the job. You need to be able to sell to a customer to buy your solution. So selling is not negotiable in today's climate. Another thing that you need to learn how to do is project management. Project management, simply put, is the ability to know how to start and finish things. All right? The best practices for how to start and finish things. What else? Number 4, you need to also be, let me see, what else? I've named 4. 1, communication. 2, what do you call it? 2, the ability to sell. 3, project management. 4, look, which I think this is a subset of selling. You need to be able to know, you need to learn the skill of interviewing. All right? Interviewing and representing yourself on a CV. The way I tell people is that you need to be able to know how to present yourself on paper, on pixels, and in person. All right? On paper, on your CV, in pixels, in video, and in person, if you have to show up and speak to the people. All right? That's another thing that is key. What else would I say that is critical? Yes, data. You need to have data literacy. You need to know, for every job you are doing, you need to be able to generate data for that. And then capture that. You need to be able to generate the data, capture that data, structure that data, and then use that data to get insights, regardless of whatever you are doing. This is critical because that is what will give you an edge, especially in the age of AI. All right? AI, look, the honest truth is that AI has been overhyped. A lot of what AI knows is what is publicly available to it on the internet. But as every day that you are working, in whatever field you are doing, you are generating data. You are generating data. And that data is just evaporating. It's just evaporating. And at most, you have it in your memory, but if it decays in your memory, then it's lost forever. So that's why it is important to have data literacy and to be able to capture, when you generate data, capture it, structure it, and then use it to find insights, because those are things that will make you more unique in the marketplace. Now, for example, there are things happening in Nigeria. I was speaking to the head of one of the biggest carpentry associations in Nigeria. And one of the big issues that is happening is that there's a generation of carpenters that are dying off, and they are dying off with all their data. their knowledge of Nigerian forests, their knowledge of carpentry skills, all that is dying off with them because it has never been captured. It's destroyed and lost to us forever. So if you are able to do this, that's something else that makes you unique and makes you highly valuable. So in terms of modern literacy, those are the things that I would mention. I'll see whether I can remember them all. Like I said, communication, elite communication skills, project management skills, marketing skills, the ability to, let me say, job seeking skills, and data literacy. The other two things that I'll mention briefly is also, once again, learn how to incorporate AI into your workflows. It will drastically drive your productivity. And then also learn how to build an audience online, networking, social media presence, all that stuff. The optionality that it opens up for you in this market is so critical. And I'll just tell a quick story to round this up. For example, my sister used to teach in a school for over 10 years. She used to teach at Family Worship in Abuja. And she quit her job. Please don't follow her. But, she quit her job before she got a new one. And then she started posting on LinkedIn regularly. The people that all reached out to her to offer her jobs never liked her posts, never commented on it, never reposted her posts. The person that eventually hired her said one of the reasons why we reached out to you was because we liked your online presence. And now that job that she's doing pays her, and I'm not even kidding, I'm not approximating, pays her exactly 10 times what she was earning 3 months ago. All right? So I just wanted to share that. The second question, I don't think I understand it. What is the space for specializations? I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'll take a stab at it. I think right now, specialization is, well, it depends on what area, but for most people that I see, specialization, it's better. The opportunity has now come, especially with AI, to be a high-level generalist. So for example, one of the things we've been seeing, especially for virtual assistants, is there's a huge demand for virtual assistants with marketing skills, with digital marketing skills. So sometimes we see that, or virtual assistants with healthcare, something background. All right. So there seems to be an opening now, or a trend for people moving towards roles in which you are expected to have like multiple skills at a higher level. So I hope that addresses the issue for specializations. What's the biggest obstacle you found that deters foreign companies from hiring Nigerian talent? Infrastructure. Infrastructure is very big, and that's why we solved for it in Parasol. It's one thing to have an availability of talent. It's another thing to be able to deliver that talent work product reliably. And internet power security has been a large hindrance for a lot of young people. So we resolved that in Parasol by building what we call oases of reliability, where we have redundant power, redundant internet, redundant round-the-clock security that allows people work from our facilities at a level as if they were in one of these Western countries. And that's why a lot of these employers prefer to work through us. So, yes, so infrastructure is a huge issue. What are the biggest things the average Nigerian job seeker does not know? What are the secrets? I think I've kind of been sharing all that. So, but just to keep it simple, the what's that I talked about. The what I was talking about. On your CV, you need to take your CV seriously. A lot of people they write their CV and they don't look at it again. But the truth is that all people will know of you is your CV. Your CV is like the profile picture of your career. So one tip that I would give you is work on your CV, because none of you would put an extremely ugly picture of yourself on your social media platform. All right? At least if you are well and you're thinking properly, you wouldn't do that. So the one tip I would give is that your CV should represent you well. And one of the things that I would say to represent you well is that it should be an achievement-driven CV, not, oh, I open drawers, I close them, I sit down in the office from 9 to 5. Your CV should show your biggest wins. So that's what I would say. Your CV should put your best foot forward. And that said, sometimes you may not get the opportunity to put out your CV, and it's only a few people that will get to see your CV. Use your social media platform. Most of the time, it's LinkedIn I know about. Use your social media platform as an ongoing CV for yourself, all right? To put your best foot forward in terms of what you can do. And when I say what you can do and the value you represent, it goes back to what I talked about earlier, how you contributed to revenue growth in one way or the other, how you cut down expenses in one way or the other, how you increased or improved the reputation of your company in one way or the other. All those things, it shows that you are someone who can deliver.